Hello, my wonderful people. Welcome to the Tilt and Shift Photography Business Podcast. I am your host, Bobby B. And I have a couple of fun concepts to talk with you today about. When things pop up in my life repeatedly, like repeated messages, maybe conversations that I have with people, things that come up in my conversations with my mentees or my students, it reminds me, hey, I should maybe talk about this on the podcast. So here we are. I've had two of my mentorship students and a good friend. I had virtually the same conversation with all three of them this week, so I'm going to have this conversation with you. And it's the discussion about like, am I doing the right thing? What am I doing with my life? What choices do I have? That sort of talk, like you're wanting to close a chapter, you're thinking about opening a chapter. In our realm, it's often for people who are wondering if they should, quote unquote, quit their day job. Like being a photographer, some sort of rock star. I promise you it is not. It certainly feels good. It's a wonderful life. But it's a job. As is being a rock star, I imagine. I wish I had been a rock star. I mean, I could. I probably still could. I think I have that vibe sometimes. I have like a Leo ascendant in my horoscope, but I'm also like a Taurus moon and a Virgo sun, which is extremely grounded. So those are my two battles that I often have. Do I want to be like the star of the karaoke party, or do I want to like just absorb the earth, which is definitely the phase I'm in now. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I just sold out my retreat, Let's Retreat, which is very much about getting grounded in our creativity by being in nature. And I'm so stoked to be able to share this perspective, these skills with these four creatives. So if that is something that you are interested in, spending 4 days deep in nature and then getting your hands literally dirty doing various types of art and then learning all the limiting beliefs that we have around all of those things and being taught and guided through ways to overcome those limiting beliefs, this retreat is for you. I'll put the link in the show notes so that you can sign up for next year. There'll be a wait list because I'm only doing it once with just 4 people. So to keep it super intimate and very constructive and focused. But anyways, back to the task at hand. For those of you who are thinking about what you're doing with your life and if the way you're living your life is the way you want to live it, this episode is for you. So oftentimes, I will ask someone, what is your ideal day? And you can tell that they've never even thought about it. It's never even like crossed their minds, which is really quite normal. It's quite natural for us not to really like intentionally think about what our ideal day is and how we can actually craft that. Like, you are in charge of your day, even though you do not think you are, especially if you have a job and kids and relationships and all of these millions of things that are probably going on in your life. For this privileged white woman to come and tell you, like, you're in charge of your day is probably, like, maybe a little bit annoying. But at the risk of being annoying, it is true. You are in charge of your day. And by not acknowledging that you have the desire to have an ideal day, then you are really selling yourself short of being able to create the life that you want, whether that is being a full-time photographer, whether that is splitting that between a job that you currently have or maybe a job that you want and doing photography on the side. Maybe it's not photography at all. Maybe you're someone who's coming to this from some other field, or you just happen to stumble across this podcast and I'm suddenly the stranger telling you that you need to like completely shift your life focus. I'm not telling you that. But what I am telling you is that it's a really good idea if you feel like an itch, if you feel like you're not satisfied, for you to sit down and do this ideal day exercise. And so what that looks like is, one, just allowing yourself to think whatever it is you will think. Oftentimes we don't think about our ideal day because we cannot get out of the reality of what our days actually are, which is picking up and dropping off the kids, making sure that I get the taxes done, but like getting, like doing. I need you to find like a quiet place and just give yourself the grace of sinking in with like your favorite cup of tea and just envisioning what is your ideal day. If you could be anywhere in the world doing anything at any time during any day, what would you be doing? I'm not going to give you any further guidance than that because I want you to just let your mind wander. And that is something that we don't often do. We don't let our minds wander. And it's the wandering that will take us to where we actually really do want to be, in a place where we're settled and peaceful and free, feeling love and joy, whatever feelings that you kind of strive towards. If you never envision yourself having those feelings, you're never going to create a day that has them. So I want you to think about this without any shame, because oftentimes we will like judge our ideal day. The first time I did this, I was like, well, you can't do that. Well, there's no way you can do that. Well, I've been doing this exercise for about 5 years now. And it keeps getting more and more and more refined. This is actually kind of a passive exercise. You're just kind of letting your mind show you the things that you truly love and desire. And maybe it's spending time with your partner. Maybe it's spending time like the whole family's home. Maybe you're all together somewhere distant. Maybe you're all just in your house doing puzzles and baking cookies or doing yard work or what. It can be anything. There's no constraints. There's no requirements. There's no judgment on what it is your ideal day would entail. Okay? So write all of this down. Like just allow it to be an expansion of the thoughts that you don't quite let yourself have. One of the reasons that we don't let ourselves think about this stuff is because we will often feel a bit of disappointment that it's not happening. So I encourage you to just let that slide through you. It may happen. And instead try to look at it with like a little bit of like, oh, okay, that disappointment is telling me something. Like, this is what I would like a day in my life to be. And I don't have that. So that makes me feel a little bit sad. And that's okay. Like, you're allowed to be a little bit sad. And at the same time, you can also be a little bit inspired by these thoughts that you're having and the fact that you don't have it. And there's something that you can start playing with, that you can exploring. Like, how can I bring this into my day, even just for 10 minutes? What's an element in my ideal day that I could do right now? So maybe it's being able to have like a peaceful walk in a forest. How can I do that? How can I actually like maybe I think that is my ideal day. Well, what if it isn't? So why don't I go try that? Why don't I go to a nearby park? Why don't I try that the next time that my family and I are camping or on vacation or something? Is there a park nearby that I can go to? Like, letting yourself think these elements of your ideal day gives you the opportunity to actually do them, to figure out if that's what you want. But by stopping yourself from thinking them or judging yourself as you think them, you're never going to do it, right? So that's task one in figuring out what to do with your life. this tiny question of what to do with your life, or how to change it, or how to improve it, how to make it better, how to feel more satisfied, more peace. The ideal day exercise. What is your ideal day? Write it down, look at it, admire what your brain came up with, and then see if there are elements of it that you can pull in to the day that you have, or maybe you already have quite a few elements of it. Acknowledge those that oh, you know what, this already exists, because then our brain can be like, oh, you know, it's already happening. I didn't even. We have to be self-aware and acknowledge the things that are already happening in order for our brain to build the neural pathways that, like, yes, we are capable of doing this thing. So self-efficacy is the belief that you are capable of doing something. That comes from being aware of what is happening, and then being able to assess whether or not and how you can affect that situation or that experience. So once you're done your ideal day exercise, put it somewhere where you can, like, see it, so that it's kind of in your subconscious, and then start working towards the little pieces of it that you can effect now in your current situation. The other thing that I want you to consider as you are considering what it is you want to do with this one wild and precious life, to quote my favorite person on earth, Mary Oliver. Well, she's not on earth anymore. Well, her work is, so she is. And it's an exercise. I don't remember if I heard it in a podcast or if I read it in a book or what it was, but it really changed how I looked at how I make decisions. And it's called 20 outcomes. Well, that's what I'm calling it. I don't remember what it was called. But oftentimes when we think about doing something, we come up with two options, right? Should I stay or should I go? Two options. It's so limiting, and we often get really anxious about making a choice because we think that we only have two choices. So this came up for me earlier this year. I was really scared that I was going to lose my house. And friends, that's like my biggest fear. I didn't buy a house for a really, really long time. I was really scared of buying a house because of the fear of losing it, which is what we all do. We don't do something because we fear failing, right? The fear of failure. And just having this responsibility. But now that I have the house, I'm always thinking about, I'm going to lose it. Like, every time someone doesn't pay a bill, or like a big bill comes up, or that's instantly the first thing I think, I'm going to lose the house. And that became very real earlier this year. It became highly possible. And I was freaking out. I was pretty anxious, and I'm not someone who gets anxious. I'm generally very chill. But this was striking some chords that were extremely vulnerable, and not being in control of my own life really, really hit some inner child stuff that I'm still working on. So the thought of losing the house was like numbingly terrifying. And then I must have been listening to a podcast, but it's this exercise of 20 outcomes came along. And basically you think of your worst case scenario, which if you're considering leaving your job, or if you're considering doing photography, like taking the leap into full-time photography, or whatever combination that looks like for you. What is the worst thing that can happen? What is the worst case scenario? And for me, as in this example, it was losing my house, right? So I kind of had two options. I could either sell it, or I could buy it out, not afford it, and lose it. So in both ways, I was losing the house, but those were my two options. I thought that I was either going to have to sell it, or I would get it and subsequently lose it. So worst case scenario, I've kind of forced myself, what are 20 options that I could come up with. Let's say I don't have a house. So I let myself think it, which was awful. Like, that's an awful feeling. Any of you who have ever had your homes threatened, this strikes like one of our basic needs, right? It's like immediately our lizard brain goes into high alert. Everything is about survival. If you don't have a safe place, you're threatened, right? So all of those fight, flight, freeze, fawn response started working its way through my body. But in order to prepare for worst case scenarios, you have to think about them. In the same way that if you want an ideal day, you have to think about your ideal day. If you don't want a worst case scenario, you have to think about the worst case scenario. Do you see where I'm going here? Both ends of the spectrum require you to acknowledge your possibilities within each of those realms. Your best day and your worst day. You have choice in both ends of the spectrum. Worst case scenario. Instead of thinking of the two options, I stay or I go, I lose everything or I keep everything, what are 20 options? So oftentimes we can come up with 2, maybe 3. For me, it was like, okay, so I lose the house and then I have to rent, or I keep the house and then I get a roommate. And so I made the worst case scenario in that I kept the house, but I couldn't afford it. And it came up with 20 options. And it was really hard. It was really hard. My brain stalled at like 4. You know, I could get a roommate. I could do Airbnb. And then I sort of like, I didn't know what else to do. Right? And so forcing yourself to think of 20 things literally expands your brain. It took me about an hour of I was kind of sweaty and clammy the whole time because you're sitting in it. You're sitting in the worst case scenario, thinking about all of these things that you could possibly do. This is not things that could happen. You know, people worry about, oh, I lose my house and then all of this stuff happens. No, these are your choices when you lose, when you're losing something is a threat. So like losing your job is a threat. What are your choices? Not what is happening to you, right? So this is what I'm saying. We always have a choice. We always have a choice. Always. Even when it doesn't feel like it, we have a choice. So you come up with 20 things. And by the time I got to the end of those 20 options, friends, I actually felt pretty good. I felt kind of free because now I wasn't left with 2 things, 2 options, black or white. No, I had a whole array. I had a plethora of options. And with that, I was able to sort of bolster my confidence that whatever happened, that I was going to be okay. Sure, maybe I wouldn't like some of the options, but there's still options. I could still make choices. And that is just the first, that's just the one step. That's just the one thing that happens. Because one of the silly things that we do as humans is that we try to predict the outcome. But the only thing that we can actually do is take the next step. Like whether that was get a roommate or move into my truck. There are options. I can't predict. So let's say I moved into my truck. I was like, well, then I'm where am I going to shower? Blah, blah, blah. Then you start thinking about all of that other shit. My friends, that's anxiety. Do not go down there. Just make the list. Make the list and see that you have 20 choices. And then when the worst case scenario comes up, you're like, hey, I've got this list. I can choose. I get to choose one of these things. and I only have to choose this one thing. I can choose this thing, and then the next choice will be presented. That's how life works. We're under this illusion that we get to choose the outcome from this one single choice. We don't. We just get to make this choice. And then we get to make the next one. And then we get to make the next one. So do not forget that, my friends. And I mean, there's a lot of freedom in that as well, because once we start trying to predict the outcome, then we're just messing with absolute futility. We cannot predict an outcome. We can't. We completely lie to ourselves when we think we can. All you can do is pick your next step. So I hope this was maybe a little uncomfortable, but also a little bit brain opening for you, a little bit mind opening. If you're trying to make a big shift in your life and you're feeling stuck, number one, let yourself envision your ideal day. Don't judge it. Just move through it. Think about all the things, everything that you would want to feel in that day, what you would want to experience. Start right in the morning when you open your eyes. What do you feel? Where are you? Who's with you? And then move on to the next moment. What do I do after that? Where do I go? What am I wearing? Who's with me? What's happening? What's the weather? Go through every element of your ideal day, and then choose your worst case scenario. If you're planning something, what's the worst thing that could happen? And figure out 20 choices as to what you can do in response to that worst case scenario. That's it, my friends. A little mind play for you today. If you are enjoying these podcasts, I have a link in the show notes that you can buy me a coffee. So I don't want to have sponsors on this podcast, but I do want to have some sort of, a little bit of income. So if you enjoy this, if you get anything out of this, you can buy me a coffee and I will send you a little email and thank you, and we can have a conversation. Otherwise, please feel free to leave a review. Let me know what you think, or you can just email me or DM me on Instagram. I'm at Barbarich Photo, or at Documentary Family Photo, or at Tilt and Shift Podcast. So I hope you have a beautiful day. Thank you for being here, and I will talk to you in the next episode.